Hello and welcome to another episode of Meet the Author live from book publisher New Degree Press, or NDP. I'm your host, John Saunders, an executive coach. NDP is part of the Manuscripts Incorporated. This is an enterprise that has now published authors from 6 continents and ranked 293rd on the Inc. magazine 5,000 list. This is the fastest growing privately held companies in America. You think you have a book in you or want to start or accelerate a movement in the next 12 to 18 months? Visit creator.institute now. The next cohort just started. You can still join, certainly, and we'll get going again in 4 months. But this is a comprehensive coaching program that will take you from idea to published book, if you follow the process. Not just published, but published like a second-time author, which includes audience creation and activation, which I think we're going to hear a lot more about today, done by a masterful member of the program. Meet the Author is an opportunity to learn everything there is to know about the author and give you some behind-the-scene nuggets, and we can learn and answer your questions in the chat. So if you have comments or questions, please do drop them in the chat, and we'll get to those as we go through the session. But today is a special episode. I have with me brand new author Hilary DeCesare, who published her book just a couple of weeks ago and has a newly released podcast episode out on the New Degree Press Creator Community Podcast, which launched this morning. The episode launched this morning, premiered, and is available wherever you get podcasts, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, what have you. But a quick intro on Hilary, and we'll jump into the questions here. She's an award-winning business expert, international best-selling author, host of the ReLaunch podcast and the ReLaunch on Voice of America's talk show network. As a sought-after speaker, founder of the ReLaunch Company, and previously one of Oracle's top account managers worldwide, Hilary brings fresh energy to industry leaders, CEOs, and solopreneurs. As an innovator in neuropsychology as it relates to business and life, DeCesare also has cultivated her experience to illuminate a heart-driven path to conquer today's shifting landscape, never-ending shifting landscape, right? Reimagining personal and professional success. Hilary, great to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, John, thank you. And I mean, I'm on such a high still. This is quite I call it scazy gold, scary and crazy goal. And I put this out a year ago. I documented, I was very clear on what I wanted to do, even though I'm not a writer, even though I have never, I haven't done this before. And the whole idea was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't even really have a concrete, what was I really going to talk about? I had a whole lot of ideas in my head, but I got to say, it is a scazy goal I can check off the list. And I said earlier to you, I said, it's almost like when pigs fly, right? Well, this pig's flying.
You did it. Relaunch Spark Your Heart to Ignite Your Life. It's available now wherever you buy books online. How does it feel to even say that out loud, much less have it as a #1 new release on Amazon?
You know what? When I got that notice that it is, at the top hit, and it's in professional business development, I thought, you know what? There's so many different categories. There's so many different things and directions that I could have taken it. But this one is so near and dear to my heart because I do believe that we all have an opportunity to have great success, great abundance. And for so many, it's just there's one or two small things that if you knew that you could tap into it, it would change the trajectory of where you're going in both corporate, as an entrepreneur, and personally.
What was that author journey like for you? How did you narrow this concept down and get it to where you wanted it to be?
Well, it was a very funny conversation I had with Eric Custer, and he and I were talking. I had gotten introduced to him via somebody that was on the podcast, on my own podcast. And she said, okay, well, I want to read your book. This has been so much fun. And I said, you know what? I don't necessarily have a book that's written, but it is in my head. And she said, okay, I have someone I want you to meet. He is incredible. My first conversation with Eric went like this. Okay, Eric, I think I've got this book. I want to write it on, I was a CEO in Silicon Valley. I grew up of my career during, a lot of the craziness that went down. I'm like, I'm going to write it all about that, sex, lies, rock and roll. We're going to do all this. and Eric, through the conversation, everyone's like, dang, it's not about that. No, it's not. But there are some good, juicy stories in there. But what I decided was it's really a concept that came out of, you think about the 60s, 70s, 80s IQ. And I talk about this on the podcast that you and I did together. And IQ was all about the intelligence, your problem solving. And then in the 90s, it became all about EQ, that emotional quotient. And then 2013, Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook, Meta, she came out and created Lean In. And when I read her book, I kept thinking, you know what? I've done this. I've leaned in. I've gotten the promotions. I've gotten the really has backfired. And it wasn't what I wanted. I ended up with, things that I thought I wanted, but it didn't happen. And yeah, I didn't want any of it. And I thought there's something missing here. And so for over 20 years, I've been running businesses. I've been coaching CEOs. I've been coaching entrepreneurs, but in a new way of thinking. And it's called 3HQ. And it's the head, the heart, the higher self. And it's this method that allows you to have success in each area of your life, but also love it when you get there. Because too many times I've worked with people that we've gotten them to that point of selling their businesses, of merging their businesses, of finding that the one and only to find that there's areas in your life that you're like, I don't feel like I've hit it yet. I don't think that I have that purpose driven. I don't have that, I don't feel accomplished within. And I'm like, what is it that's missing? And that's when I'm like, okay, we're going to start a new direction. And that's 3HQ.
Wow. And as you talk to more and more people, you started to see a pattern of a common theme missing, right? This evolution of IQ, EQ, and here we are today with 3HQ. So what is the key message of this book? What do you want to share with people?
So the key message is really that we all have a hard time getting out of our head, right? We've got limiting beliefs. We've got things that we don't even know about that hold us back. I call them your bugs, your beliefs underground surfacing. And I love it because it's the space bugs. It's the ones right up here that usually are the ones that are holding you back. And when you can understand that and create that identity of where you want to go, and you can lean into your heart, lean into that heart center of your why, of your purpose, and understand that, yeah, you've got these emotional blocks, you've got these things that are silently, invisibly holding yourself back. Then and only then can you tap into your intuition and your higher self. And probably the number one message is in the title, which is Relaunch Spark Your Heart. It's how can I help you with 3HQ? Spark something that maybe hasn't been fired up in a long time. It's been dormant. It's been like, it's just dull. Life isn't supposed to be that way. And when you can understand that there is so much more to life, and I think I mentioned this to you along this journey, that my mom passed away a couple of years ago from a terrible 14-month battle with cancer. And even last week on Monday, my dad passed away. And the book came out Thursday, the paperback, and we did a launch party. And it's relaunches will happen in your life. I can't tell you you're not going to have them. And there's positive relaunches like the book launch, and there's the really sad ones like my dad's passing, like my mom's passing. But there's also like ones that are happening in your business right now, in corporations. And it's how do you get through and get the transition to a point where it's like, this is transformative, not debilitating. It's not going to take you down at the knees. Trust me. If I am still here 1 week after, my dad passed, and I'm like, yeah, this stuff works. The only way I got through it, the only way that I show up right now is my trust and my 100% conviction that a 3HQ lifestyle actually works.
Unbelievable. And you shared so many incredible stories, not only in the book, but in the podcast interview we did, which premiered this morning, wherever you buy podcasts. I'm curious, you talked about in the interview, the longer form interview, what you learned about yourself along the way. What stands out to you about that story in this journey?
You know what? I think what I really learned is that resilience is something that it doesn't just it doesn't just happen for us. Like, we have to learn how to really become resilient, how to really learn to leverage our relaunches to make them into, where are you taking you? And one of the things that I learned is that I had this, and I talk about it in the book, this divine discontent. It was something my grandmother told me when I was young, and I didn't get it. I didn't get it until writing the book, until I started to really talk about it, that on the surface, the visible side, I looked pretty good. I looked like I had it all tightened up, and I had the bow on it, and hey, I had the marriage that was working, and I had the business that was starting to be successful, and I had the kids, and I had this. And all of a sudden it disappeared, right? I got divorced. I was raising 3 kids. I was traveling 3 weeks a month, raising money for one of my companies. And I wasn't in a place, and I never dreamed I'd be there. That's another thing. If you can ask yourself this question, are you right now where you thought you would be at this point in your life, in all of the areas, professionally, personally? And if there's something that's not quite right, that's when I want you to ask yourself, are you stuck in your head? Are you stuck with the clutter, the mess, and not able to see the messages that are coming through you with your intuition? And I got to tell you, when I was finally able to understand the importance of this and incorporate this in, that's when, and again, I keep saying I talk about it in the book, I talk about it, but that's when I turned into a manifestation magnet. Like, it's a funny word. It's like, what is this? And coming out of corporate, coming out of Oracle for 10 years, it's like, it's crazy to even say, but when you tap into some of these things that are invisible, like your intuition, people might be like, oh, I once tried to do that and it didn't work so well. Well, what I pretty much can tell you is it's probably the way you were interpreting the message. And when you can start to, just like your muscles, build them up, things start to happen. They really do. And that's when life gets really interesting and exciting for you.
You actually saved your life trusting your intuition one time, did you not? What was that story?
Ooh, this one is a powerful, powerful story. And I had not been trusting my intuition, and I had been kind of, you get caught up in your business, you get caught up in your shareholders, you get caught up in, like, I got to make this happen, got to make this. And I had such blinders on that I wasn't even hearing the voice in my head that said, you know what, you've got somebody on your board that is just the bad seed. You got somebody that, run. Run, don't walk, like, sprint, get out there as fast as you can. And I was at Niagara Falls, and we had taken a detour when we were out raising money. And all of a sudden, and there's one part where there's no railings. And I thought, you know what? I got this intuitive hit that said, get away from the edge, like now. And I turned around, and there was this guy, like, right next to me. And I was in a very tall pair of stilettos. That's what we wore at the time, right? Not my flip-flops that I'm running around in these days, but stilettos, very wet, very, like, slippery. And I quickly, like, turned around, almost hit him in the face, and kept walking away from it. And I was just like, what just happened? What was that? Well, I didn't know until literally a year later, when the company got into a mediation with this guy at the forefront and the lead. And it ended up being a point where he brought the company down. And the second we were done with the company, I said, there's no way we can raise any more money. I got a call from the SEC, and the SEC said, hey, we're investigating. And at that point, this gentleman, this person that, I had that feeling, he was actually put into federal prison for 3 years. And after that, I thought, what happens if I hadn't listened to my intuition, if all of a sudden I slipped off of that edge and into the falls, what would have happened? Would he have gotten away with a Ponzi scheme? Would he have gotten away with everything? Would it have just been, like, pushed under the carpet? And I have to say, from that moment, I have leaned into really understanding intuition, understanding universal laws, understanding how these can play a role in your own creation in terms of that manifestation and becoming a manifestation magnet. Like, how do you do that? And again, I grew up in Silicon Valley. I grew up in, corporate world, this dog eat dog type of mentality. I get it. But I also needed to take this out into the world, this concept, because too many people, too many entrepreneurs are trying to figure out, too many corporate execs, too many leaders are trying to figure out, why aren't things working for them? Why aren't they going the way they want? And it's crystal clear. It really is. And it starts with, you specifically may not even know that you're holding yourself back. You are the one. It's not your boss. It's not your coworker. It's not like, even, is this idea the right idea? And you start to have all that doubt. It's what's going on inside of you. And when you can take the steps, and they're simple steps. And I remember before my dad died, he said, just keep it simple, Hilary. Just keep making it simple and keep hitting on that intuition. And and he was an orthopedic surgeon. And he also was a disbeliever in all of this.
A lot of your work and early work came from psychology, right? What ideas, and it sounds like it might tie into some of what you're talking about here. What ideas in your career have you learned from that background?
Ooh. Well, originally I was pre-med going into college. And after a year, I realized, you know what? I'm really not interested in being a doctor like my dad or my grandfather. And so I said to my my advisor, all right, I'm out of state tuition. My dad's not allowing me to go past 4 years. What can I do to graduate on time? What major? And Mr. Nishikawa, he said, Hillary, you got two choices. You can go psychology or you can go anthropology. And so I said, all right, I think I'm more interested in psychology. And it was the best decision. And I laugh at how quick the decision was. It was one of those, like, in 1 minute, I made it. And then from there, even after I got out of school, I continued to be drawn towards psychology, neuroscience, to the point where 10 years ago, I started working with John Assaraf. And another great story around that as well. That'll have to be in the next book, right? But how that all came to be, and how I literally leveraged the law of attraction with the 3HQ. But it's interesting that now more than ever, psychology, neuroscience, it's the fundamental of where people that are really shining in their career are leaning into, are learning. There's this hunger to understand more about it and how to simply incorporate it into all areas of their life. And that's what this book does, and that's where I step in.
Such an incredible story you have to share, and such a powerful message. And you shared a thought on the podcast about how the book actually helped improve you and how you operate your business. Can you share that story, and then we'll dive into the rapid fire questions?
Ooh, okay. So how it actually impacted my business was, it's interesting. I'm a framework type of person. I like efficiency. I like to understand that, if you do step one, then you go to step two. Well, unfortunately, when you look at 3HQ, it doesn't fall into our usual step 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10, because there's these nuances that in my corporate life, in my original executive coaching of CEOs in the Silicon Valley, we were not we weren't tapping into that heart center. We weren't tapping into your why. We weren't tapping into what is it about your purpose. And we were all head. We were all like, just give me what I need. Well, now, in order to have a business that is successful, especially in the hybrid world right now, where you're working from home, home is where the heart is, but you have your business, and many times your business, office, home, business, it's all one and the same, and blurry lines and all this, right? And so what I've been able to do is take and incorporate into my business being the ReLaunch Co. That's what I do. And now taking it to that next level to allow every person to not have to go through 20 years of the grind of trying to learn it all. Now, when I start working with a person, I'll say, much like I had a business, a consulting business, early days, and it was called White Space Inc. I did it with this other woman, INK Inc. And I had people put everything they could think about their business onto the whiteboard. And they'd spend like, hour, 2 hours, and we'd be going at it, like looking at it. And then I'd say, erase it all. And they'd be like, what? No, this is so good. And we'd start from the point of what has worked. Where do you really like where you're going? What do you really want to be doing? We call it the G zone, your great zone, your growth zone, your gratitude zone. And that's not something you learned in corporate. But guess what? That is the baseline of where we're going right now into the future. It's not a new normal. It is a new different.
So I love the way you frame that, right? We've lived through this 2 years of pandemic, and it's not a normal, it's a new different. What a great way to frame that, Hilary. Thanks for sharing that. If people want to connect with you and learn more about you, I put it in the bottom of the screen there. You can text relaunch to 55444, visit the relaunchco.com, or Hilary also has a Linktree page, Linktree/the Relaunch Co. So you're ready to dive into the rapid fire questions here? We'll make our
Come
way.
on, bring it on. I'm on the launch pad right now. I got it.
Yes. I like to start with the most important thing in people's lives, Hilary. Favorite sandwich. I think that's a good place to start.
Favorite sandwich. Ooh, okay. I would say a toasted club, and the little like zingers. I always dip my sandwiches in ranch salad dressing.
Solid. Favorite color.
Oh, I would say periwinkle. Do you even know what that color is?
For some reason, that was my favorite crayon growing up in elementary school. I swear to God.
It's like that purpley blue. Really? Seriously? That's so good that you know that.
I mean, I can't make this one up. Favorite or most memorable vacation spot? I think I might know the answer to this one.
Oh, it has to be 100%. Well, you're thinking Silver Lake. That's by far my go-to. But I have to say, I'm taking Italian right now with my husband. Anywhere in Italy.
Awesome. Scariest animal?
Ooh, spiders.
That's it. Poor spiders get a bad rap on this show. Apples or bananas, Hilary? Better fruit?
Ooh, I would say a pink apple.
Nice. Favorite movie?
I just watched Top Gun 2 nights ago. I have to say I really love that, but that's not my favorite. I would say my favorite is oh gosh, I would say I just watched it the other day again, and Body Heat. So good. So good, suspenseful. It's like old school. So good.
Was it the new Top Gun or the old one, by the way?
I watched the old one so I can go see the new one.
We just watched the old one too the other day. Favorite smell?
I would say I love citrus.
Nice. For me, I think it might be either coffee and bacon in the morning or pine needles out in the forest.
Well, you know what? I actually like Myers lemons. They're like the smell of just that. They're like think about so many different thoughts, and it just heightens and it wakes me up.
I love it. Last photo on your phone.
Ooh, of my daughter and her boyfriend. And it was during the launch party weekend, and they were, yucking it up we're in Colorado, and they got on the Colorado mascot is, our bull, and they got on Ralphie's back and took a crazy pic.
Very nice. Favorite song to sing with or without an audience?
Oh, absolutely. I Am Woman, Helen Reddy. That's my go-to song before I do anything.
I think we're going to have you back to perform that one.
Oh, yeah, I'm good too. And I do it with my brother. We do it together. And nice. He takes on some of the girly roles.
I love it. What's one thing, Hilary, you really should throw out?
I would say a jacket that I got in college that still has the stains from falling on the floor at a bar, and it has the beer stains. But I love it.
Memories, right?
Yeah, memories. Exactly.
Most audacious goal for 2022.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you. Now that this was my most audacious goal, this was it, getting this book out there. But now I am moving towards a TED Talk.
Nice. Pat, right? You put it out there to the universe.
I'm putting it out there.
You would not be the first author from New Degree Press to get a TED Talk. So I'd love to see you on that list. That's amazing. Have you signed all your books yet? Or did those?
My books haven't showed up.
They haven't shown up.
I've actually bought my books, but I do have a little coin thing that I now sign. So
you have a number of amazing praise quotes on the back of the book. What's one you might share with our listeners today?
Ooh, I would say it was John Assaraf, and I won't read the whole thing, but he said, buy this book. Or maybe he said, read this book. Read this book. And coming from John Assaraf, the forward, he did the forward as well as on the back. That to me, that was like, oh.
That's amazing. Most unique moment or memorable moment from your writing journey?
I would say being in this room, and I had no idea how many all-nighters I would pull. And I didn't realize that I could actually drink 20 cups of tea a day. I'm like, oh my God, I've never done this. I'm not a coffee drinker, but dang, I had no idea that I could consume that much.
Well, you talked about resiliency earlier, and sounds like you found it. Best part about being an author so far? It's early, right? Well, you did write a chapter in a book a little while ago, but
I would say, best part of writing the book and being an author now is I get to share. As I said, my mom passed away, and there are so many. What a wise woman, that I had no idea how relevant she will be in people's lives. And I've already had people reach out that I don't even know, saying, what your stories did, they triggered something in me that had kept dormant. I didn't even know it existed. So that's the best part, is that this book is already impacting lives.
It's people you don't even know, right? Read your book. They're so moved by it. They're taking the time and effort to reach out to you. That is amazing.
Amazing.
2 more questions and we'll wrap it up here, Hilary. What would you say to those considering writing a book?
Oh, you know what? Do it, but only do it if they're going to work with Creative Institute and work with New Degree Press, because, and this is not just a plug for all of you, but what you did for me was take a very, very busy person and put structure around writing a book to make it actually happen. If I had thought about doing this and having this journey on my own and being accountable to me, we would still be talking about the first sentence.
Right. The structure, the accountability. And I think a lot of people appreciate about it is not only being busy, finding a way, helping you find a way to fit into your life. And there's no one way to do this, right? But having that weekly accountability, I think, super important. Thank you for sharing that.
And also one other thing, if I may add, there's something to be said about once you write your first book, and you guys talk about it often in your course, is that you write it like you're writing a second book. And it's now in my head, second book, full book, not I'm in other books for chapters, but this is like, I've now had the baby. And for women, you'll understand what I'm saying. When you have a baby, you initially, when the baby comes out, you're like, I'm never having another baby. And then somehow you forget. I think I've already forgotten. I'm like, what am I talking about right now? That there's a second book. But yes, I do think that there will be one.
There's maybe another one out there. Last question, Hilary, describe your writing journey in 5 words, not necessarily a sentence, but 5 words that stick out to you about the journey.
I would say, spark your heart, ignite your life.
Wow. That was impressive. If you haven't seen Hilary's book yet, I can't encourage you enough to go out and share it with somebody. You can go buy it on Amazon, wherever you buy books online. Go out and get a copy today and share it with 3 of your friends who need to hear this message. It's an incredible one to help people really accept the fact that there are relaunches that always happen in our lives. And if we view them as a negative thing, we're never going to get past it. And Hilary has an incredible story and roadmap here to help you do just that. As I said, her book is out there now. It's the #1 new release on Amazon. Absolutely incredible. And if you want to connect with Hilary, here's all of her information on that. Text 55444 and visit therelaunchco.com. Hilary, great to see you. Any last thoughts for our listeners here today?
Oh, John, thank you again. You also are a huge part of my own success on this journey. And one thing that, it's about being able to talk to other people in the business world that have written books on the side of running businesses. And that's what becomes so impactful, because, it's not just a course that you're doing independently. Like, you get to talk. I mean, John, I remember our first conversation where I'm like, help me understand how to do this. How am I going to run a business and write a book? And you were able to really very clearly help me along this path so that I'm actually sitting here with you now.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. It's been an absolute joy to get to know you and your story and be a tiny part of this journey along the way. And I'm so excited for you and having this book out there. And the fact that it's the #1 new release and has dozens of 5-star reviews already, no surprise to me.
Thank
Hilary,
you.
congratulations. Go out and get her book now, wherever you buy books online, or visit her website, relaunchco.com. Great to see you, Hilary. Thanks again for joining us. And to our listeners, tune in, follow New Degree Press on YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you like to follow social media, and check out our upcoming episodes as they happen just about every week. Hilary, great to see you again. Thanks again for joining today.
Thanks.